There's something strange about this game that came out in November 2021, mostly because on paper, it looks like a terrible typo. Given the positive response to the quality of the graphics and animations on display in the latest Pokémon remasters, I'd be forgiven for assuming that we're in 2012, and not a year removed from the launch of a generation of consoles that was supposed to leave anyone still gaming at 1080p crying into their duvets. The textures on display here are significantly better than those in the original game, but in 2021, I think we're well past the point where this is impressive. These graphics are acceptable, with the eternal caveat that Pokémon is, and will likely always be, a Nintendo exclusive and subject to a graphical asterisk. What's perhaps the most irritating, but entirely subjective complaint I have, is that the actual models in the battle sequences, and particularly the trainer models, are perfectly fine. These would have been better overworld models than the cheapification the series has injected into every overworld aspect. That said, Brilliant Diamond was a Christmas gift from a family member, which I was nonetheless excited to play for the nostalgia trip, if nothing else, and on that fact, it does deliver. Everything looks a little different, but the structure held true, and I felt that naggingly familiar sense of joy that comes with the early hours of a new game. As you'd expect, you're still travelling to essentially the same routes, paths, and meeting the same NPCs as you were over a decade ago, and catching the same 150 Synodex monsters, but there's joy to be had in repetition. Just ask the PS4 that's played Persona 5 with me on more than one occasion. That's not to say there haven't been gameplay or mechanical changes to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I particularly like the way the underground is now fully featured, outside of just being the location of your own token base. When you go below the earth, there are Pokémon in the overworld. The return of the digging minigame is significantly better thought out, and the spawn rate boosting statues you can acquire make grinding worth it. You can also catch some crazy powerful Pokémon for what stage of the game you're at, and my team before the second gym could have had a Scyther, Absol, and Elekid, which quite frankly is ridiculous. As much as a game like this is important for what's changed, what's different about this version than the original, part of me still relishes the idea of having another blank slate and a vague overarching task to complete like a Pokédex. Yet I find myself questioning, if I had to pay for this myself and it wasn't a gift, would I? Or would I have made the decision to wait for Legends Arceus, which by all accounts looks to have taken more than a passing glance at the word innovation, even if, before I've played it, my review seems destined to be titled Pokémon Hunter World. On the surface, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl see the usual tale of generic young person tasked with catching and seeing all the Pokémon in the world, battling 8 gym leaders and the Pokémon League before stepping into the post-game and the competitive battle arena, only to find that these formerly accessible to all connection features are now locked behind a subscription service. Granted, I know these changes have been around for a while, but if the aim of this game is to capture my sense of nostalgia, I must be misremembering how this system operated in the original Diamond and Pearl. Where I can give unfiltered praise for this game is that it is very, very accessible, regardless of your skill level or age. While constant uninterruptible XP share may annoy those who want to EV train from the start, this is a feature that enables casual players to just hit the mainline parts of the game and remain viable. You'd find it very hard to go anywhere underleveled, even if you deliberately avoided every non-essential battle or encounter. As I progressed through the game, I found myself being more and more drawn into the underground to catch the new rare Pokémon that appeared and to grind statues, more so than I felt compelled to finish the story. I'd become so powerful by accident, without even trying, that I was deliberately taking Pokémon out of my team to retain some semblance of a challenge. I understand that I'm not the target audience for Pokémon games at the age I am now, but I absolutely was when the original games came out, and this has been made even easier since then. This game did manage to invoke a familiar sense of safety. In a world where every new gaming IP or installment in a franchise feels much more like a coin flip than it was in the early noughties. I can moan and wail that the Pokémon games lack innovation and are just familiar, but in essence, that consistency is their calling card, and a large part of the reason why they are the best-selling JRPG franchise of all time. And no offense to Final Fantasy, but it's not particularly close on that front either. Small improvements have been creeping in, such as more overworld Pokémon and better ways to catch higher V Pokémon for the competitive scene. There are also methods that can increase the shiny chance up to as high as 1 out of 99, which gives those willing an incredible amount of post-game content, without having to risk old age before completing it. But I think we can all agree that it's time to put the majority of this 20-year formula to bed and consign it to what will be an incredibly praise-laden page within the gaming history books. Earlier in my review, I questioned that if I had to pay with this with my own money, would I? Despite the tone and inflection of some of my responses, my answer, right now, is yes, but that would be the finality of it. Mainline Pokemon games need to show real change, and not the dribble of improvement we got in Sword and Shield. The last naive part of me that wants this franchise I've loved for more than 20 years to succeed is left with no choice but to put all of their eggs into the Arceus basket, and hope that it does enough to breathe fresh life into this. The original Diamond was a strong installment in the series, but these remakes are little more than dull nostalgia, enough to tide me over until January, but not enough to sate me for any longer.